Hi, everyone. Welcome to Late Night Snack. I'm Allison Kinnear with Voice of Her Own. And Late Night Snack is just something I do typically on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock, where I talk about self care and parenting and just life. And tonight I'm kind of following the arc that I've been doing all this month of just talking about relationships, talking about times in which relationships can get stuck or tricky. And tonight I wanted to talk about silence. And I put the trauma of silence because silence can be its own form of trauma for us. And it can show up in big ways, like what we're seeing in our national political field and all the Kavanaugh trials that happened today. But it can also happen in smaller ways. It can happen in these smaller ways that impact us in our lives. And that's what I really wanted to talk about tonight. And then I also have a big announcement that I want to share at the end that kind of relates to all of this. But first, a story. When I was in my early 20s, I was dating a guy that he was really nice, super sweet, but I just wasn't that into him. I just didn't quite click with him. And I grew up in a household where if our family motto was, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And so I didn't say anything. I just I would give little subtle clues or cues of I'm not that interested, or just small subtle things like kind of the fake laugh, and that was about it. And then it finally kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what? I just feel like I'm stringing him along. I need to break up. We're all done. And so I broke up with him, and he was shocked and really surprised and a little bit devastated, if I may say. And he was so confused because he said, "I don't understand. I thought we were doing fine together." And I kind of tentatively was like, "Yeah, no, not really." And he kind of pushed me on it, and I eventually kind of told him some of the things that weren't working for me. And they were things that were kind of like, they really weren't working for me. There wasn't anything that he could really do to change that. And one of the things he said to me was, I can't believe you didn't tell me. Like, you seem to have been fine this whole time. Like, you didn't say anything to me. And he was right. And I knew he was right. I didn't quite realize that's what was happening. I thought I had been communicating, but I actually wasn't saying anything. And so fast forward into my late 20s, and I had a couple of this pattern kind of crept up in several of my relationships. And you know, when I got to this one relationship in particular, I felt this really strong pull towards this man, and it seemed very mutual. But I kept thinking about this pattern I had of like not sharing, of not speaking, of staying silent. And because all for good reasons, because there were times when I had spoken up and it had gotten shut down. And but I decided that this relationship was serious enough that I wanted to say something, that I wanted, and not only to say something, but I wanted to share all of the parts of me that I thought was unlovable, because it was such a painful thing for me to kind of like hide in all of my unlovableness that I felt, that I wanted to share that, because if it was going to make him run, then I wanted to know. I wanted to know now. I wanted to share all that was unlovable about me, and if he stayed, great, and if he left, then I knew that it wasn't meant to be. And so we went for a walk, and I remember crying and kind of like pouring my heart out, and he thought about it. He listened. He thought about it for a moment. And then he said, you know, I can see how hard this is for you, and I can see how much pain this brings you. But I have to say, from my point of view, that all of those hard things about you made you who you are right now. And who you are right now is who I want to be with. And that's who I love. So I hear how much you don't like this part of you, but I'm really grateful for this part of you because it's made you who you are today. And that's my husband. That's who I said that to. That's Ken, for those of you who know Ken. And that was like signed, sealed, and delivered. It was just like everything clicked into place from that moment on. And I share that with you because when we silence ourselves, we do several things. Like in my first relationship, one of my first relationships, we rob other people the opportunity to hear what our experience actually is. The other thing it does when we silence ourselves, the person we're hurting the most is ourselves. And we have to cope with that trauma in various ways, by eating too much, by drinking, by drugs, by shopping, by whatever kind of addiction that we may have to help to numb ourselves to the pain and the trauma that we're carrying. Brene Brown talks about this a lot around we get out of shame by sharing our story. We get out of shame by sharing our story with those we can trust. And for me, with my husband, it was like it was like my litmus test. It was like, okay, I trust you this much. I'm going to share this part of me. And for it to be received in that way, I'll tell you, it blew my mind. Because I never, ever, 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 up until that point, thought that the parts of me that were most unlovable, the parts of me that I felt most shame around, could be the parts of me that other people loved the most. And so by speaking my voice, by not staying in silence, it allowed for this wonderful, beautiful moment to surprise me. And to open my eyes to a whole different world and a whole different perspective, right? And so one of the things, the reason why I created Voice of Her Own, was because I see so many women, and I am that woman, and I have been that woman, who stays silent, who doesn't use our voice. And part of that is because of the experiences that we've had as children. Part of it is because of the experiences we have in our society around what it means to speak and to use our voice. And there's this movement for women in particular to use our voices, but it's not only for women. I want to tell you another little story. This week, and this relates to my announcement, this week I took a look at all of the consultations I've had with people since I did my imposter syndrome talk at Amazon. And I took a look at all of those conversations, and I got a little, that movie, A Beautiful Mind. And for those of you who have worked with me, you know what I'm talking about, the mode I get into. There's like whiteboards and like papers and drawing, and I'm writing. And I got into like my beautiful mind state, and I looked through every single consultation I had, and I tried to pull the themes and tried to pull the threads out of it. And one of the main threads, so by the way, this is what a beautiful mind thing looks like. This is what I'm talking about. It's like I go all crazy. I start color coding things. It goes, that's what it goes. So that's what it looks like. But one of the things that really came up with people amongst women and men was no voice, no speaking out. So here are some of the quotes that I pulled from this. If I'm in a big meeting, I won't ask questions. I hold back my thoughts. I don't showcase my talent. I don't say anything. I'm too nice. I don't like confrontations. It's hard for me to communicate when I disagree. I start to speak, but I don't follow through. What I do doesn't get visibility because I'm not vocal. It's hard for me to speak up. I undermine myself. I don't confront others. I'm intimidated by others. I come across as timid. I'm afraid of making mistakes. I'm scared. This is data from men and women. And that's just, that's just the purple highlights. There's far more that came out of that. And for those who said something about, I don't know if this is because I'm the only woman in the room or if I'm the only manager, people who are like, I'm trying to figure that out. They also got some things. This is what happens sometimes when we speak up, right? I throw an idea out there, but it gets ignored. It's not safe to share. People talk to me like I'm an idiot until they know me. I speak, but they don't seem to listen. I'm worried about coming across as being rude and irritating. I feel left out and excluded. I don't like to bug people. I feel stepped over. So here's the thing. It is painful when we speak out, and it is also painful when we hold it in, right? Like both of those experiences come with its baggage, it comes with its pain. For some of us, it comes with its trauma, depending on if we experience it as that. It can be an incredibly uncomfortable position to be in. But the difference that happens when we stay silent is that we don't have the opportunity to see what surprises lay on the other side. Because we don't know. Yes, somebody might shut us down. Somebody might call us rude. Somebody might say we're too pushy, whatever that might be. But other people might say, hey, that's a great idea. I'm so glad you shared that. Hey, I didn't even know that you were feeling that way. Thank you for telling me. We have to be able to communicate. And that's why I created Voice of Our Own. I created it to help women because I would see all these like brilliant, genius, intelligent, amazing women. And then their voice would just shut down. And they wouldn't put themselves out there. They would put themselves out there to me one-on-one. But in a bigger situation, it was hard for them to be bold. It was hard for them to use their voice. And I see the impacts of this, not only in our greater society, which I think we're all bearing witness to, and in our personal lives, but I also see it when it comes to the business floor, when it comes to ideas not being shared, when people are seeing problems, they don't say anything. They wait until other colleagues say something. Men and women alike. And so that leads me to my big announcement. Are you ready? Are you ready? So my big announcement is that, going through all of this and seeing, what I'm describing to you, that is just one thread. That is just one of my beautiful mind themes. There were many other themes that emerged from talking to people about how imposter syndrome shows up in their life. And the whole reason why I created Voice of Our Own is to help people step into their voices more. And so on November 3rd and 4th of this year, it's talking a month from now, I'm going to do a 2-day deep dive on imposter syndrome, on all of the things that hold us back from our confidence, that hold us back from being able to show up fully. It is a 2-day deep dive, Conquer the Imposter Conference, that's going to take place in Seattle in the Georgetown area. And so I'm just going to throw a save the date out there in the comments. But this is for you if you're struggling with confidence, if you're having a hard time showing up it'll be more workplace focused, but I think it applies to all areas of our life. But it's a place for you to be able to experience kind of facing some of the challenges that keep us small, that keep our voice silent, and to help us express ourselves more. So that is happening November 3rd and 4th. in Seattle. So I'll put more details down below in the comments. I'm seeing hearts. Thank you. I'm hoping that means that's a 2 thumbs up. There's also another amazing thing happening with Sarah Thorpe, who just gave me a little heart. Heart back to you, Sarah. That same weekend. So I'm sorry you can't be in 2 places at once, and neither can I. But that was the only weekend that seemed to be free before the holidays started hitting. And I just wanted to make sure that that people were getting the support that they needed, getting the bigger support that they needed as soon as possible. So that's what I have for you tonight. That was a lot, man. I'm telling you, this whole thing about silence and voice, is big stuff. Hi, Mom. Hello. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Corey. Hi, Bridget. I see there's maybe one other person, but again, can't see you unless you comment. So I'm very excited. And if you know anyone who you think could benefit, anyone who struggles with confidence in the workplace, who is maybe feeling stretched so thin that they're exhausted and running on empty by the time they get home, anyone who is really wanting that promotion or just even struggling, for many people, I also noticed there were a lot of people who wanted the promotion but just didn't know how to quite put themselves out there or be seen in order to get it. And then on the other side, I saw a lot of people who were in higher positions, who had gotten the promotion, and they're kind of looking around going, do I deserve this? I feel like other people are more qualified, right? So it's for that. I have several clients who are in that space of, I don't even know if I should be doing this. I can't believe people are trusting me with this work. So this is for you or any of your friends or people you know who might be struggling with that. So November 3rd and 4th, I will put a save the date. If you feel like sharing it, I would be so thankful and honored if you do. And anyway, that's what I have for you tonight. Oh, and I'm also, I'm speaking in October. I shared that last week, but October 11th, if you're in the Seattle area, I'm doing a talk about imposter syndrome, but it'll be more like dinner networking. It won't be a deep dive. So those are the big things coming up in my life. I'll share it with you. Thank you. I hope you all have a wonderful night of uninterrupted sleep tonight and always. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week on Wednesday. Thanks.